It's the most powerful show on television. High drama with intense energy. A show dedicated to a few brave souls who risk their lives for the sake of their craft. Its in-depth reporting goes to the core and unlocks the mysteries behind today's raciest sport. Motorsports. Catch it when you can.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Post Tech. Today we move on to episode number 3, where we will be going over just a little bit of what happened in the Dryden 400 in the NASCAR Cup Series, but we will be giving the full race recap of the KDI Office Technology 200, which happened on the Friday before the NASCAR Cup Series race in the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series. But first, let's start off with the big stories from the Cup Series race at Dover. Martin Truex Jr. absolutely whooped the field, leading 132 laps out of 200, scoring the victory in his first win in almost one full season, coming at the very same racetrack that he won at last year, meaning that he has won 3 consecutive races at Dover and 5 in his career, which is a very impressive number. He's getting up there near Jimmy Johnson's stats. Honestly, he does have to double his stats, or, well, more than double to get up to Johnson, but still, he's on a fast track to it if he can stay with Joe Gibbs Racing. And that rumor of him being replaced next year is still very lively. But the biggest story actually out of Dover was probably the safety concerns with that inside wall coming off of pit road. I even mentioned this in the pre-race segment, which was recorded before the race happened, that wall really can come out to bite you if you're not really paying attention. And in the case of Landon Castle, he had a suspension component failure, so he couldn't turn out of it. But when that car hit the wall, it ricocheted straight back up into the way of traffic. Kaz Grala slammed him going over 100 miles an hour faster in the 89 car, and also got plowed from behind of Austin Cindric. He was a little bit shaken up after that accident, but fortunately no one involved in it was injured. It's certainly a safety concern for the Speedway. Dover Motorsports, with their flagship Speedway being Dover International Speedway, are certainly going to be trying to fix that before we run at that racetrack next season. I'd imagine they'd probably just try and straighten out the wall, make it a little bit more gradual, make sure that cars can't ricochet back into the way of traffic when an accident like that happens. But just like really anything in racing, you don't know that there's a problem until something catastrophic and a freak accident happens that proves to you that there is an issue. Like Matt Kenseth's wreck at Pocono last season that really showed off some issues with how the cars are constructed around the B-post. That was fixed for this season, and that was actually fixed less than 1 month after Matt Kenseth's crash at Pocono when NASCAR took the car to the R&D Center and worked on that, examining the race car to see what actually failed and gave Matt Kenseth a very significant concussion, which made him go on to making the decision to end his full-time Cup Series career. But I would say that the series is going to take a very significant look at redoing the pit road wall on the exit of turn number 2. There was a talk between Justin Haley and Christopher Bell after the Cup race at Dover, the Dryden 400, because Haley accidentally made contact with Christopher Bell while trying to get back in line. Haley was a lap down. Bell was running in second behind Truex. So they made contact. Bell went up into the outside wall of his right front fender. Justin Haley was bouncing off the inside and outside walls, giving the 77 pretty significant damage, and that's what actually slowed Haley down enough to be involved in an accident with Daniel Suarez later on in the race, just about 10 or 20 laps later. They had a talk. They were fortunately understanding of the situation. Justin Haley's only in his, first 10 or so starts with Spire Motorsports, especially as a full-time driver. Not too experienced so far. And not to mention the fact that situation was more or less just a miscommunication. The spotter cleared him. He obviously wasn't clear. He thought that there was a hole. They cleared him because there was a bridge right in front of him. I guess the spotter was in kind of a blind spot. Turn 2's been a trouble spot all day, hasn't it? It was all day on Sunday with the Kaz Grala accident, then the Justin Haley-Christopher Bell incident. But fortunately, all that stuff got resolved, all the conversations there. It remained civil, which we haven't seen that much of that this season. Speaking of, confrontation, won that win at Dover, a very good rebound for Martin Truex Jr. after getting involved in that fight with Timothy Peters at the Nashville Fairgrounds. That was a pretty good rebound for that driver. Still in a bit of a concern when it comes to his contract situation, but if he can continue his success throughout the year, you might be able to expect Truex running in the number 19 next season. And if he can get that ride once again, the maximum accomplishment that he could have would be to make the Daytona 500. Not even to win it, just to make the race, because they haven't made it for 3 past seasons. Kyle Busch and Chase Elliott both did not have very good runs at Dover. Most of Kyle Busch's radio transmissions were more or less just complaints. You could kind of expect that out of Kyle. But unlike his recent races, where it's mostly run in the back for the first half of the race, complain nonstop on the radio, he didn't rebound. Late in the race, he started to climb through the field. In fact, I think he got all the way up to second for about half a straightaway, battling with Alex Bowman. But then some unfortunate cautions for him started to come out, and he had to pit under green, and then another caution came out, trapping him a lap down, and he finished outside the top 20. So it was not a very good run for him. Also, great race going for Tyler Ankrum and Harrison Burton, 2 youngsters. They're running well within the top 10 all throughout the race. Harrison Burton was up into the top 5. Same thing with Ankrum for a couple laps there. But unfortunately, damage on Ankrum and a big crash for Harrison Burton knocked those 2 out of the race. It went from a great day to a pretty bad one for both of them. It should have been a top 10, maybe even a race win for Harrison Burton. Burton, unfortunately, has been snatching defeat from the jaws of victory recently with the fuel miscalculation at Homestead, and he was one of the only cars faster than Truex at Dover. But most of it hasn't been his fault. So still disappointing for quite a few youngsters after having a fantastic run going in the first half of the Dryden 400. Also, Austin Dillon, following his top 10 run at Dover International Speedway, inching even closer to a top 5 running position in the point standings, was called over by Clint Boyer at the end of the race. No cameras were on this discussion, no microphones were on them either, but they were having some particular discussion. And this really fuels the fire about the rumors I've been talking about lately of Austin Dillon being the rumored replacement for Clint Boyer in the number 14 car after Boyer's retirement this season. Also, a quick note on Austin Dillon. He will be testing NASCAR's next-gen test car at Talladega Superspeedway before the Geico 250 NASCAR Camping World Truck Series race this weekend. And just a note about the future of NASCAR. They will be utilizing a new aero package for the All-Star race at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, which will be coming up very shortly within the next couple of months. Aspects of it will go into development of the next-gen car's aero package, which will debut full-time in 2022, next season. The plan is to cut the spoiler down from 8 inches in height currently at the Speedway races down to 4 inches in height, and removing the tapered spacer which we run on the 1.5-mile racetracks. No changes to splitter length or in side skirt dimensions. The car will have a respectable amount of downforce as compared to the 2017 to 2018 package, however. We have mentioned that NASCAR is looking to get downforce levels back to down to what was seen from 2000 to 2002, just before the common body template came into effect in 2003 for that year's Winston Cup season. While not getting to the point we were in 2018, where the downforce levels were so low that it was almost equally as hard to pass as when you're in dirty air from a high downforce package. Because when you're in a high downforce package, all the dirty air coming off the spoiler and all the aero trinkets, I guess you could say, that they put on the race cars now, flarings and the sort, but it produces such a big hole in the air that when you're behind another car, it's hard to pass because all that air is trying to lift the front end of the car up. So when you're cutting a big hole in the air, that makes for great drafting. But what drafting also does when you're in a corner is it lifts the front end of the car up. So you're not getting that downforce to hold the front end of the car down. It's pushing because it's actually getting lift. So that's why you try and see people try to find different lines around the car currently. That's why we all talk about multi-groove racing, because it's really hard to close the gap when you're right in line behind someone. And now that factor is never going to be totally removed, but they want to lessen its impact. But during the low downforce package, it was almost equally as hard to pass because you had such low downforce, it was hard to hold your car below another car. The one on the outside, even if it was slower or on worse tires, could kind of pin the car on the inside line down and take all the little bit of air that was even coming on the spoiler all the way off it and almost wreck the car on the exit of the corners. So you can't really have either extreme. You kind of need somewhere in the middle to find a good balance of passing. Well, for reasons it is tough to pass with both packages, that is what NASCAR is trying to focus on with the next-gen car, getting cars passing again, which is what we saw many years ago. However, the sanctioning body is looking to keep the very low downforce package that we run at the short tracks and road courses with the next-gen car, as well as the very high downforce package that we run at super speedways, those being Daytona, Talladega, Texas World, and Michigan. The very high, almost 9-inch spoiler with the 1-inch 90-degree lip that produces a whole bunch of downforce to keep your car on the ground when it's traveling forward. It might not help it when it's going backwards, much like the wing used to on the car tomorrow. But it keeps the car on the ground and cuts those giant holes in the air, and when you don't have to lift, guess what? That means big pack racing with a whole lot of runs being generated, which leads to good pack racing. However, the main focus for the next-gen car when it comes to aerodynamic differences is on the intermediate package. Casey Mears will run a second car for Germain Racing in an attempt to make the Geico 500 at Talladega Superspeedway the Freightliner number 60 after winning the NextEra Energy 250 in the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series in a 1-2 finish for Germain Racing, with Mears taking the win above his teammate Ty Dillon in the Andy's Frozen Custard Chevrolet. They both plan on attempting the Geico 500 to see if they can continue that super speedway success up to the Cup level and try to work together in the Geico 500 to score maybe even another Germain 1-2 finish. Also in team news, Noah Gragson, and I pronounced it right that time, at least I think, will run the number 62 car for Brendan Gaughan after their purchase of Beard Motorsports at all the remaining superspeedway races, at least attempting them. We can't guarantee that they're going to make a race. We can just guarantee that they're going to show up and try and qualify. Along with the remaining superspeedway races are the Brickyard 400, the Bristol Fall Playoff race, so the one on the concrete surface, and Atlanta, the final race of the season in the playoffs, in preparation for what may potentially be a full season for the team. Can't quite guarantee whether or not it will be with Noah Gragson. But at the moment, they are trying to maximize his Cup experience before maybe going full-time with him next season, because they will be attempting exactly 6 races with him in the Cup Series this year, as to maximize his Cup experience without jeopardizing his Sunoco Rookie of the Year honors for future seasons. In track news, North Wilkesboro Speedway is in talks of applying a sealer to the asphalt surface for this season's race. So you know what a sealer is. It goes over the asphalt surface, makes it look nice black and shiny, more or less, because it's sealing the asphalt down. It's a fresh surface. Only problem is if it gets too hot, oil starts to come out of it. It gets a little rough to run. We saw that at Richmond back in 2002, if you don't recall that race. The bottom line was the only line that wore in on that sealer. Anything above that was just total marbles, and you couldn't even run in it. I recommend rewatching that race. I believe it was the spring event in 2002, just to get an idea of what happens when a sealer goes wrong. So definitely Wilkesboro will be focusing on getting the sealer right for this season's Winston 400, or they might just not put the sealer down. Currently it's a rumor. But if they put the sealer down, they will certainly be trying to make it the best racing quality possible for this year's playoff race. And they will not make any changes to the racetrack's presentation, as that needs to be preserved because it holds NASCAR's annual throwback weekend with the Winston 400. Don't expect any changes to the Walls Classic candy stripe pattern and stuff like that. I know that was a whole RJR thing. And now, after just a quick commercial break, we'll be back to go over the race recap of the KDI Office Technology 200 NASCAR Camping World Truck Series race from Dover International Speedway. We'll be back in just a minute. NASCAR on Speed Station is being brought to you by RFJ, the official home of the RFJ AI series. By Knife Friend 725, the brains behind Project Retroval, and by Anthony's Online Simulation League. Welcome back, and before we get on to the KDI Office Technology NASCAR Camping World Truck Series race from Dover International Speedway, I got to give you the race analysis. Stage number 1 ended on lap 50, and stage 2 ended on lap 100. The full race distance was 200 laps or 200 miles around the Monster Mile in Dover, Delaware. The pole sitter, Timothy Peters. And now you might like that because that's actually a double rebound from the fight, because Martin Truex Jr. won the Dryden 400. Timothy Peters scores the pole at Dover. Maybe it'll mean good success for him getting in a fight with Truex. It's time to work for Truex, and we'll find out in just a minute if it worked out for Timothy Peters. And now, let's christen this race with our intros. Entering the Camping World Truck Series race from Dover International Speedway, Ryan Truex had taken up the point lead by 4 points above Grant Enfinger, the number 98 truck for Thor Sport. 5 points out of the lead is Tanner Gray in the 15. 11 points out is Ty Dillon. 12 points out is Dawson Cram after failing to make the race at the Nashville Super Speedway in the 41 truck. 13 points out is Casey Mears, the Daytona winner. Then 19 points out is Parker Kligerman. 27 points out Sheldon Creed, 28 points out is Christian Eckes, and 30 points out is Ty Gibbs. We should also mention on the situation surrounding Parker Kligerman, Henderson Motorsports has decided to run the full Camping World Truck Series season with the number 75 truck as long as they remain within the top 20 in the point standings. So they intend on running every single race as long as Kligerman can keep that truck up into a playoff running position. Now, Timothy Peters won the pole at Dover, but here's some other notable things from the qualifying session. Sam Mayer, in the first ever attempt for the number 57 for Henderson Motorsports, actually qualified the truck in 5th. Gracie Trotter, making her first ever Camping World Truck Series start, qualified in 7th place in the second truck for McAnally Racing. The 41 truck of Dawson Cram not only made the race, but qualified in 10th spot, a great run in the Overton Chevrolet this week. The driver of the number 51 truck for Kyle Busch Motorsports at Dover was not Kyle Busch in the Rowdy Energy truck, it was Greg Biffle back in the number 51 at Dover. And your other returning driver was Cameron Haley, who qualified the number 53 Camping World Silverado in 25th spot. Also, a poor run in qualifying for the 2017 Series champion Christopher Bell, who qualified the 61 truck for Hattori Racing Enterprises in 30th. However, the number 16 truck, his full-time teammate of Austin Hill, did not do that much better. And at the drop of the green flag, Timothy Peters got the jump on the start above the 22 truck of Austin Wayne Self, who got a fantastic run in qualifying to start in second. But quickly, Grant Enfinger, the second-place runner in points, entering this race, took up the second spot in the race. Sam Mayer tried making a 3-wide move down on the inside of Matt Crafton and Austin Wayne Self. He's still trying to make it work on the exit of turn number 4. And Timothy Peters led lap number 1, with Grant Enfinger down on the inside line. Took up the top spot on the exit of turn 2 with Sam Mayer quickly driving his way into third spot. On lap number 3, the string of bad luck for Stephen Parsons continues as he slips up off the bottom on the exit of turn 4, gets tagged by the 18 truck of Ty Gibbs, and turned into the inside wall, sending the 09 and 18 trucks around. However, much more significant damage on Parsons' truck in comparison to Gibbs. Pit strategy began very early as both Henderson Motorsports trucks, the 57 of Sam Mayer and the 75 of Parker Kligerman, both came down pit road, along with the 92 truck of Austin Theriault and the 56 of Timmy Hill. Sheldon Creed was not having a very good race going. There you see him down on the inside of a driver making his Truck Series debut in the 44 truck, Jet Noland, running in his first ever Camping World Truck Series start. But Creed, currently running in 32nd spot, cannot find a handle on the racetrack so far. By lap number 12, however, the number 2 truck of Sheldon Creed was freight trained by all the drivers that put on fresh rubber and dropped all the way down to 38th spot in the 2 truck for GMS. On lap number 14, the 21 truck of Zane Smith set up a very good pass on Timothy Peters down on the inside through turns 1 and 2 to take up the second place. And Zane Smith wasn't done there. At the end of lap number 15, he gets down to the inside of the 98 truck of Grant Enfinger and takes up the top spot, picking up where he left off at Dover last season. Gracie Trotter had a fantastic 7th place qualifying run, but by lap number 18, she got freight trained up on the outside line and dropped all the way down to 20th. Unfortunately for her, she's in line behind her teammate, Derek Kraus, and can potentially learn something from him running in his tow. By lap number 27, the 09 truck of Stephen Parsons had already dropped 1 lap down, and the 4 truck of John Hunter Nemechek actually used Parsons as a pick to get around the number 88 of Matt Crafton, moving John Hunter Nemechek up into 2nd spot. But just a few laps later, Matt Crafton was not done with the 4 truck of John Hunter Nemechek, gets down to the inside entering turn 1, and retakes 2nd spot on the exit of turn 2. But guess what? We still had a battle for second. John Hunter Nemechek on lap 32 gets down to the inside of Matt Crafton and retakes second. And that opens up the door for the 55 truck of Ty Majeski to take up third. Sam Mayer restarted fourth to last by taking on fresh tires in the tied number 57. However, by lap number 34, he had raced his way all the way up to 20th, showing how important fresh tires really are. Very similar to what Christian Eckes did last time the Camping World Truck Series was on track at the Nashville Super Speedway after coming down pit road very late in the race, starting at the tail end of the longest line and driving all the way up to 10th by the end of the race. And on lap 35, Ty Majeski in the number 55 truck got down to the inside of the Ford truck of John Hunter Nemechek, taking up second spot. Like what we saw in the Dryden 400 on the Cup Series side, most of the battles were going on for second, allowing the race leader to get away. At the end of lap number 35, the number 40 truck of Will Rogers makes contact with the 09 of Stephen Parsons' lap truck, turning the 40 down to the 23 and hard into the inside wall, giving the 40 truck very significant front-end damage. But guess what? No caution came out from this accident because all the debris more or less self-cleaned itself down to the inside line. But the 40 truck of Will Rogers was knocked out of the race in this accident. On lap number 43, the 87 truck of Timothy Peters set up a pass down on the inside of Ty Majeski. And through turns 1 and 2, Timothy Peters, your pole sitter, drove his way back up into second. On lap number 43, the driver of the number 24 truck, Raphael Lassard, reports that he is down one cylinder. And just take a listen to this truck. It definitely sounds underpowered. Certainly sounds ugly for that number 24 truck. On the closing lap of stage number 1, we had 3 trucks under a blanket for the stage 1 victory. The 21, the 87, and the 55. Peters trying to pressure Zane Smith as much as he can to try and get the stage 1 victory. Tries diving it into turns 3 and 4. Right up to the tailgate of the 21. But onto the front stretch. Zane Smith wins stage number 1 in the KDI Office Technology 200 from Dover. Peters second, Majeski third, Rhodes fourth, and Ty Dillon in fifth. Coming down pit road on lap number 52, Johnny Sauter and Ryan Truex have a pitting dispute, which causes bent sheet metal on both the 13 and 33 trucks and definitely some hurt feelings. And right on the restart for stage number 2, Ben Rhodes got the jump on the 87 truck of Timothy Peters, who looked like he was almost sleeping at the wheel on the restart for stage 2. Cut down to the inside line to take up second, picking up where he left off at the Nashville Super Speedway, finishing in second spot at that racetrack as well. Another good run going so far for Ben Rhodes. And on lap number 55, the number 24 truck of Raphael Lassard comes back down pit road to try and diagnose the engine trouble that they were having on his truck. On lap number 59, neither Christopher Bell nor Sheldon Creed have really made any progress in today's race, with Bell running in 29th spot and Sheldon Creed residing in 31st. By lap number 60, Sam Mayer has actually raced his way all the way up into the top 10, getting around Casey Mears, Ty Dillon, and Greg Biffle, all 3 Cup Series competitors, and 2 of them Cup Series winners. On lap number 62, ironically enough, the number 24 truck of Raphael Lassard blocks the 21 of Zane Smith. Those 2 are teammates, mind you, allowing Ben Rhodes in the number 99 to shoot down to the inside through turns 3 and 4 and take up the top spot for ThorSport. One of the best runs so far this year for Ben Rhodes, finally getting his season back on track after a very rocky start. Also, Timothy Peters was able to use the 24 truck as a pick to take up second in the 87 truck. So at the moment, we have all 3 makes running 1, 2, 3. On lap number 65, we can finally tell why Christopher Bell was not running good. Coming down to turn number 1, he lifts his foot off the throttle pedal, engine blows up, makes contact with the 20 truck of Spencer Boyd, putting Boyd up into the outside wall, but this has knocked the number 61 truck of Christopher Bell out of the race. Now, we had a caution come out just one lap after Christopher Bell had that engine failure. Certain drivers attributed this due to the oil that was dumped onto the racetrack that NASCAR did not throw a caution for. But the number 24 truck, the slow truck of Rafael Lessard, up on the outside line. The 31 truck of Ty Dillon slides up on the exit of turn number 2, potentially due to the added lubricant on the racetrack from the 61 truck. Makes contact with the 24, spins him down the 46, and a pretty significant inside wall impact for the 31 truck of Ty Dillon, with the 46 of Chandler Smith spinning around and fortunately not being impacted by any other competitors. And here's the onboard with Ty Dillon. It just looks like he miscalculated where he was sliding up the racetrack to try and get up onto the quarter panel of the 24 truck. Accidentally clipped him, and it ended up ending the number 31 truck's day. And in the race back to the flag from that caution, we still have Ben Rhodes out front above Timothy Peters and Ty Majeski. Under this caution flag, we only had one truck come down pit road for the purpose of strategy, that being the 55 of Ty Majeski. They had gotten the number 31 truck of Ty Dillon back onto pit road from his accident, so that's why he was in his pit stall. The number 33 truck of Ryan Truex was pitting as well from being one lap down, trying to get some more of that damage he got on pit road with Johnny Sauter repaired. And finally, the 20 truck of Spencer Boyd was on pit road after hitting the outside wall after making contact with Christopher Bell, who was abruptly slowing down due to his engine failure into turn 1 on lap 65. On the restart, we saw a new rivalry taking shape among Camping World Truck Series veterans Matt Crafton and Timothy Peters. Crafton gets the jump on the restart, cuts down to the inside of Peters on the exit of turn number 2, and quickly gets down to the inside through 3 and 4 to take up second. Also, a quick note about the 57 truck of Sam Mayer. He has raced his way up into 7th, and the 41 truck of Dawson Cram inching his way towards a top 5 running position. Just about 10 laps later, we had the 2 ThorSport trucks of Rhodes and Crafton battling for the top spot, almost making contact as well on the exit of turn 2. But that opened up the gap for the number 87 truck of Timothy Peters to take advantage of the slowing 88 truck of Matt Crafton getting down to the inside to try and retake second spot. And these two running side by side through 1 and 2 has also brought John Hunter Nemechek back up into the mix. There you see the lap truck of Brett Holmes up in front of race leader Ben Rhodes as well. Rhodes has to take evasive action on the 23 truck, and now Crafton clears the 4 truck of John Hunter Nemechek and has his sights set back on getting around the 87 of Timothy Peters. And now this is when the battling really starts between these two veterans. So you see the 87 truck gets slowed up just a little bit. Crafton down on the inside. Dives into the turn. 87 not really giving him much room. Forces his way down the inside. They make side-by-side contact on the exit of turn number 4, and Crafton retakes second in a very close battle with one of his colleagues. You know, after being involved in that incident much earlier in the race with Stephen Parsons running very close to the tail end of the field, Ty Gibbs by lap 82 has already raced his way up into 8th spot, getting around his teammate Greg Biffle in the 51 truck. But by lap number 84, Greg Biffle pulled an aggressive move down on the inside of both Ty Gibbs and Stuart Friesen, going from 9th to 7th. On lap number 85, Dawson Cram in the 41 truck got down to the inside of John Hunter Nemechek in a Kyle Busch Motorsports truck, getting around the 4 truck and taking up the 5th spot. First time that Dawson Cram has been running up in the top 5 all race long. Oh, and by the way, the battle between Rhodes, Crafton, and Peters was not over. At the start of lap number 95, Peters tries to move that 88 truck up off the bottom on the exit of turn 2. He just gets the drive off down the back stretch, gets down to the inside, and through turns 3 and 4, the 87 of Timothy Peters takes up second off of Matt Crafton, with his sights set on the 99 truck of Ben Rhodes for the Stage 2 victory. However, the number 87 truck of Timothy Peters for Nemco Motorsports did not have enough for the 99 of Ben Rhodes, as Rhodes runs through turns 3 and 4 with a pretty clear margin above the 87 to win stage number 2 in the KDI Office Technology 200. You also saw that because of these top 3 battling so intently, it brought Zane Smith up into the mix, with Timothy Peters second, Matt Crafton third, Zane Smith in 4th, and John Hunter Nemechek rounding out your top 5. Dawson Cram stole 6th. Timothy Peters takes the race lead in the race off pit road, but the 99 truck of Ben Rhodes, the 88 of Matt Crafton, the 21 of Zane Smith, and the 4 of John Hunter Nemechek. On lap number 105, the 04 truck of Corey Roper has to come back down pit road after pitting just a few laps ago for a loose wheel. An unfortunate break for Roper. And the 09 truck of Stephen Parsons was involved in yet another mess at Dover International Speedway. Slow truck up on the outside line. After being involved in an incident with Ty Gibbs much earlier in the race, the 2 truck of Sheldon Creed, still running in 31st spot, gets frustrated with Parsons coming out of turn number 2. Also slides up a little bit and being pressured by Michael Self in the 25 truck, sends the 09 around, with the number 25 truck of Michael Self being collateral damage in this accident. Self kind of pushed coming off of turn number 2 with 2 trucks up on his outside, and it kind of bottlenecked into forcing the 2 truck to make contact with the 09 of Stephen Parsons. But I'm sure that Creed was not cutting Parsons too many breaks after being held up for about a lap or 2. On lap 109, Timothy Peters came down pit road along with Parker Kligerman, Greg Biffle, Casey Mears, and Sam Mayer, but Ben Rhodes stays out and assumes the race lead above Zane Smith, Matt Crafton, Stuart Friesen, and John Hunter Nemechek. So in the final stage, this is when strategy has become crucial. And after deciding to come on to pit road, Timothy Peters and several others will be starting behind at least 20 lap trucks. And with his decision to come down pit road, Timothy Peters will be restarting behind at least 20 or so trucks that opted to stay out. On lap number 113, Michael Self and Stephen Parsons are once again racing each other, and there you see the 44 truck of Jet Nolan make contact with the 16 of Austin Hill. Fortunately, those two catch it, but I'm not sure whether or not Michael Self thought that the 09 truck of Stephen Parsons caused the last accident that those two spun around in, but this time Michael Self just goes straight up and makes contact with the 09 truck of Parsons, finally finishing that truck off and hard into the inside wall, but that actually gave Michael Self pretty significant damage as well. But when you just account for these two drivers spinning, that's more or less a mirror crash of what they had just a couple of laps ago, with the exception of the 2 truck of Sheldon Creed. Fortunately for him, this time he was not involved. But you have to wonder, did Michael Self think the first crash was intentional? Because this one sure looked it. Here's the onboard with Self. That was a hard hit for the 09 truck of Parsons. After being involved in 3 spins today, that crash finally knocked the 09 truck out of the race. Racing back to the flag for that crash, the number 21 truck of Zane Smith put the pressure on the 99 of Ben Rhodes back to the stripe, but it was still Rhodes to lead back to the caution. So it is Rhodes above Zane Smith and Matt Crafton, your top 3. The number 87 truck of Timothy Peters found himself in trouble after the caution flag as he makes contact with the 42 truck of Hocevar, sending him up into the 60 of Casey Mears, with the 42 and 60 trucks both coming together up into the outside wall. Fortunately, it was a relatively low-speed accident, so not too much damage on either of those 2 trucks. And in Peters' case, he actually got away with almost no damage as he more or less started the wreck and missed it. And remember the last cycle of the pit strategy? Well, all the trucks that opted to stay out on the last caution come down on this caution, and all the trucks that pitted on the last caution stayed out on this one. So Greg Biffle actually assumed the race lead in the number 51 truck for Kyle Busch Motorsports above Sam Mayer in the 57, Chandler Smith in the 46, Timothy Peters, who just started an accident, above the 2 trucks that he put up into the outside wall, Casey Mears and Carson Hocevar. And the first truck off pit road was actually Zane Smith above Parker Kligerman and Ty Gibbs, getting out with about 15 trucks who opted to stay out right up in front of them. So they will be restarting with only about 1 or 2 lap fresher tires, so it's really not that big of an advantage. The only difference is that they will be starting behind very many trucks on this restart, making the restart very interesting for those competitors. For instance, pitting on the last cycle of the caution is what actually put Timothy Peters in position to be involved in that accident once the second caution came out because of the hornet's nest of trucks that was running in the back. That's the kind of positions you get put into when you come down pit road and many trucks stay out. After being involved in 3 crashes over the running of this race here at Dover and being involved in a wreck in the last Truck Series race at Nashville Superspeedway under caution, in which he went upside down, mind you, Stephen Parsons was called to the hauler after the conclusion of this Camping World Truck Series race. We do not know what was discussed in there, but it was likely just a warning, a verbal warning for Parsons to try and get his act together and try to avoid dicey situations, which he's been in several times over the last 2 races. On lap number 118 after the restart, Timothy Peters restarted in 4th spot and was all over the back bumper of Chandler Smith coming off of turn number 2. Smith goes down the inside of Mayer, but Peters sends it in 3 wide on the bottom to take up 2nd off of Smith and Mayer with his sights set on the 51 truck of Greg Biffle for the top spot. On lap 119, we had a bit of a chain reaction accident that took about 1 lap to really occur. The 60, 42, and 24 trucks all come down pit road. And this causes a massive bottlenecking of the field behind. I mean, look at some of these trucks fanning out in almost 4 wide situations. In fact, Ben Rhodes does get put 4 wide by Ty Majeski all the way down on the inside line. Then, Brennan Poole, Todd Gilland, and Ty Majeski almost crash on the front stretch, almost a 5-wide moment, just like what we saw in the Dryden 400. They slide up. Contact gets made between the 12 and 92 trucks. They are still staying off of each other, and we are still green with no one being sent around. But it all came to a head on the exit of turn 2. 75 truck of Parker Kligerman gets clipped by the 20 of Spencer Boyd. The 21 of Zane Smith also gets turned around, and more trucks just start to pile in. There you see the 50 of Gracie Trotter getting very slight damage. The 75 truck back up the racetrack into the 13 of Johnny Sauter. Heavy damage on Sauter's truck. Back up into the 75 of Kligerman. 04 truck of Corey Roper also involved in this one. John Hunter Nemechek as well. There you see the 20 truck of Spencer Boyd setting on the racetrack. Jet Nolan makes contact with Johnny Sauter. Several competitive trucks involved in this accident, and also more damage on the 4 truck after clipping the 13. And here's the onboard from Gracie Trotter, who almost completely missed the accident. Here's where the mess starts. That 4-wide pass that almost kind of worked. And then down the backstretch. It all unravels. Right up in front of the 50 truck, a little bit of contact with the 20. They're wrecking up on the outside line, but Trotter actually, for the most part, misses the accident. And under this cycle, the caution, the race leader hits pit road, that being Greg Biffle, as well as Chandler Smith, Sam Mayer, Austin Wayne Self, and several others. So that hands the lead over to Timothy Peters in the 87, back out front above the 18 truck of Ty Gibbs, the 52 of Stuart Friesen, the 98 of Grant Enfinger, and the 41 of Dawson Cram. On lap number 125 after the restart, Grant Enfinger got down to the inside of Stuart Friesen to take up the 3rd spot in the number 98 truck. On lap number 128, the number 45 truck of Brett Moffitt has to come down pit road for a flat tire. Also, take a look at who has raced his way up into 4th place. That's the 41 truck of Dawson Cram. And don't forget about Matt Crafton. He's probably being inspired by Timothy Peters, who's running up front. And through pit strategy, Sheldon Creed had actually made his way all the way up to around 6th or 7th. But he is quickly dropping back. Still, that 2 truck is not handling very well, as he has just dropped outside the top 10 and is still losing spots up on the outside line. On lap number 132, the number 98 truck of Grant Enfinger gets down to the inside of the 18 truck of Ty Gibbs and takes up 2nd spot. And speaking of ThorSport, Matt Crafton battling alongside the 41 truck of Dawson Cram for 4th. Entering turn number 1, there you see the 41 truck dives into the corner and re-clears the 88 truck of Matt Crafton, now side by side with the 18 of Ty Gibbs down the backstretch. And in fact, these two battling side by side has let the 99 truck of Ben Rhodes gain ground, and Dawson Cram has taken up the 3rd spot in the Overton Silverado. On lap 137, the number 18 truck of Ty Gibbs gets back down to the inside of the 41 of Dawson Cram to retake the 3rd position. By lap 143, Ben Rhodes had raced his way up to 4th and gets down to the inside of Ty Gibbs down to turn number 1. And Ben Rhodes takes up the 3rd spot in the number 99 truck for ThorSport. On lap 149, we still have Timothy Peters out front in the 87, leading 3 Thor Sport trucks. If you're wondering where the 13 is, it wrecked out earlier in the race with Johnny Sauter as the driver. Through 3 and 4, the 88 truck down on the inside line gets the run through the turn. Side by side with the 99 truck of Ben Rhodes. Down to turn number 1, Matt Crafton takes up the 3rd spot. With now almost 50 laps to go here at Dover. By lap 156, Grant Enfinger had almost gotten right up to the tailgate of the 87 truck of Timothy Peters, but Matt Crafton's all over him on the exit of turn 2, gets down to the inside, down to turn 3, and the 88 and 98 trucks run side by side. Off the final turn, Matt Crafton back up into 2nd. Timothy Peters and Matt Crafton 1-2. By being a victim of poor pit strategy again, Sam Mayer had to start out back. But by lap number 158, he had raced his way up to 10th in the 57 truck. Probably had the fastest truck on track, but just never had the track position to use it. On lap 167, Matt Crafton had set up a move down to turn 3, going for the race lead on Timothy Peters. But take a look at this. Peters pinches Crafton down on the inside line on the exit of turn 4 to re-clear the 88 truck by diving hard down into turn number 1. Peters still out front. This late in the race, you got to fight for all the track position you can get, and that's what Peters is doing, keeping that 88 truck behind him. And we had yet another crash on lap number 177. Tanner Gray makes contact with the 24 truck of Raphael Lassard, cutting back down the racetrack to try and clear himself from the 24. Timmy Hill makes contact and finishes him off on the exit of the 4th turn. Pretty significant damage on the number 15 LGR F-150. On the restart, Matt Crafton tried the same move down on the inside of the 87 truck on the exit of turn 4, but Timothy Peters pinched him down once again and drove off into turn 1, clearing the 88 truck of Matt Crafton. We also had a flat right rear tire on the number 56 truck of Timmy Hill. He had to come down pit road and get right sides and drop down an additional lap in the 56 truck. Coming off pit road, this was our first indication that there was something wrong with this wall that kind of forces you up onto the racetrack. Because watch this 56 truck of Timmy Hill just merging up with the field, gets back onto the racing line and makes contact with the number 19 truck of Derek Kraus, sending Kraus around down the back straightaway. The 56 truck was able to catch it, but this brought out yet another caution with just about 15 laps to go in the race. Obviously, our second indication that we had a safety issue was the gigantic crash in the NASCAR Cup Series race with Kaz Gralla. I guarantee you that that wall will be fixed the next time that we come back here. The crash on the backstretch between Timmy Hill and Derek Kraus set the field up with a just 12-lap to go restart in the KDI Office Technology 200 from Dover International Speedway. It certainly brought the field right back together in the battle for the race win. With there you see Ty Majeski going on the inside of Ben Rhodes to take up the 3rd spot. And the battle between the 88 and 87 trucks is not over by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, Crafton's truck is turning just a little bit better than the 87 truck of Timothy Peters. Peters just trying to hold him off. Now down on the inside, entering turn number 1. Crafton gets the preferred line through 1 and 2. Matt Crafton takes the race lead on the exit of the 2nd turn, side by side into turn number 3. And coming to the start-finish line with just 10 laps to go, Matt Crafton is back out front at Dover. Also, the number 57 truck of Sam Mayer making up spots down the inside, getting around the 60 truck of Casey Mears. And look at this right here. The 87 truck of Peters almost made contact with the 88 truck of Matt Crafton, but had to back off just before he got into the left rear quarter panel, because that would have sent Crafton spinning around. This is just a little bit too early to do something like that. Maybe a last lap move, but not with about 10 laps to go. And Matt Crafton was able to hold off many, many charges from the 87 truck of Timothy Peters over the last couple of laps. Peters going after the 88 truck just one more time on the final lap, reports that he has a left rear tire going down on the exit of turn 2, abruptly slowing up down the backstretch. Lets the 55 truck of Ty Majeski onto his inside, and quickly slowing up, just trying to limp the truck home, with Matt Crafton winning the KDI Office Technology 200 from Dover. Crafton's first win since Kansas last season, and only third win in the last 4 seasons. With the 87 truck of Timothy Peters developing a flat tire in the closing laps. In your regular season point standings, after Dover International Speedway, Grant Enfinger has moved up 1 spot in the point standings to the point lead without a win and without a top 5 on the season. He's led 24 laps, and out of 5 starts, he's gotten 3 top 10s. That consistency is what has brought him up to the top of the heap. Dawson Cram moves up 3 spots in points, back up to second. A great rebound for the 41 team, just 9 points out of the point lead. Ryan Truex drops down 2 spots to third, 17 points out. Ty Gibbs moves up 6 spots in points to fourth. Casey Mears moves up 1 to fifth. Parker Kligerman moves up 1 spot in points to sixth. Ty Majeski moves up 6 to seventh. Peters moves up 6 to eighth. Tanner Gray drops down 6 spots in points to ninth. And Sheldon Creed moves down 2 spots in points to 10th. Let's also mention that the number 17 truck of Taylor Gray did not make the race at Dover International Speedway, so he will still have to wait to make his Camping World Truck Series debut. In your playoff standings, Grant Enfinger currently holds an automatic playoff berth if he can stay on top of the point standings, or if he can score a win and stay in the top 30 in points. However, currently automatic qualification into the postseason at Darlington, as well as Ryan Truex, Casey Mears, Christian Eckes, and Matt Crafton, who are all locked in through their wins. Landon Castle won a race this year at the Nashville Superspeedway, but him being a Cup driver is not eligible for the championship in this series. Dawson Cram is the best of the rest, 41 points above. Gibbs is 28 above the cutoff line. Kligerman is 26. Majeski 25. Peters 23. Same thing with Tanner Gray. Sheldon Creed 21, your defending champion. Then Ben Rhodes 18 above. Ty Dillon 16 above. Austin Terrio 14 above. And Chandler Smith 11 above. Brett Moffitt, the 2018 Series champion, is 11 points out. Hocevar 13 out. Zane Smith 19 out. And Austin Wayne Self 22 points out of making the playoffs outside the cutoff line in 20th spot. And now, after just a quick commercial break from our partners, we'll be switching over to the Q&A segment of episode number 3 of Post Tech. NASCAR on Speed Station is being brought to you by RFJ, the official home of the RFJ AI series, by Knife Friend 725, the brains behind Project Retroval, and by Anthony's Online Simulation League. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Post Tech episode number 3. Now we move on to probably my favorite part of the show, where we get to answer questions sent in by fans just like you, the Q&A segment. And once again, just another disclaimer: if I mispronounce any names or handles wrong, I'm sorry, but I have no idea what I'm doing. So, first off, from Todoroki, will there be any chance of international tracks such as Montreal or Twin Ring Motegi? I will say this: NASCAR is heavily looking into either a possible race at Mosport, Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, which is already in the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series schedule, which is a fantastic racetrack. It's put on remarkable shows there in the Camping World Truck Series and in the NASCAR Pinty's Series several times before. Twin Ring, kind of debatable right now. The future of that racetrack depends on the current owners, which I believe is still Honda, what they want to do. I would assume if they ever bring Twin Ring back into the realm of NASCAR, that might open up a whole can of worms that's called will Honda join or not. So I'm sure that if that happens, look for that story. But right now, I haven't heard anything of it. And that actually, the international question, relates to the next question from Switchblade. There have been leaked images of a street circuit in Chicago. Is there talks of NASCAR running there next season? Just on the street circuit subject. International tracks. Currently, Toronto is one of the rumored tracks that NASCAR could be running at next year as their street circuit. Could, I guess you could say, kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You could run an international race and a street course at the same time. We'll see. But anyway, the street circuit in Chicago. A lot of leak stuff about this, a lot of talks of it. I wouldn't really doubt if NASCAR tries to do something like this next year. You know, they're certainly looking for a street circuit race next season. I don't think that it will replace an oval race on the schedule. I think that what will likely happen is one of the road courses will be cut off this year and replaced by a street course for next season. At least that's my initial guess. Can't guarantee where it's going to be right now because Chicagoland Speedway wants to be added back to the schedule, and ISC owns that track outright. Chicagoland Speedway will be used this year as a testing facility for the next generation car. So there's a lot of talks right now about where will NASCAR be running either in or near the Windy City. But my money right now is still on Chicagoland Speedway, but things certainly could develop in favor of running the street circuit in Chicago. From Colin McCoy, is there any major team switching manufacturers next season? Well, I mean, I haven't heard too much about it, but the biggest talk, obviously, is the whole concept of the Stewart-Evernham team, which may or may not happen. If that does, in fact, happen, I can almost guarantee that there will be a manufacturer switch in that circumstance because they don't want to be attached to Ford when there's so many other good Ford teams, you know, such as Roush, which would be then elevated back up to maybe what it once was, and Penske's already way up here. Chip Ganassi Racing is a flip-flop team. They never know what manufacturer they want to run in any series. Right now, they're running GM in IMSA and NASCAR and Honda in IndyCar when GM is a manufacturer in IndyCar. Sounds like conflict of interest, but it's apparently separate. I don't know how exactly you set that up that way where none of the manufacturers are upset, because in IMSA, by the way, they could be running Acura, which is essentially Honda's Pontiac. But still, somehow they get that worked out and they can flip-flop among makes and get away with it. So I would say probably Chip Ganassi Racing would be the number one team that I would expect to probably switch makes for next season. And any of the really lower level teams, our team is with a long-term deal with Chevrolet, so you don't need to worry about that when it comes to our organization. However, I would say that Rick Ware, they could finally maybe sign a deal with a manufacturer because you know very well they just kind of run used cars. Doesn't matter whether it's Ford, Toyota, or Chevrolet. They run the thing. But that's a prime opportunity for a manufacturer to take advantage of signing them and maybe putting together a factory deal. Maybe bringing Rick Ware to the front. Who knows? And Todoroki, just second Switchblades question. Will there be street courses at all, and will they be eligible to double head with IndyCar? I would say so, actually. Like, if this Toronto race actually does happen and they kill two birds with one stone, well, they might be getting three, because that would be a prime opportunity to run a doubleheader with IndyCar. Really, beyond that, I can't see too much. Possibly, I mean, a street course, the street race at Belle Isle in Detroit would be actually fantastic marketing because of NASCAR's, historic run in Michigan. All the big three based up in Michigan, specifically in Detroit. But I'm not quite sure at the moment because of Michigan International Speedway with such an overwhelming presence. I don't think that they want Cup cars running at Long Beach or St. Petersburg either. I just don't see that happening. That's a bit too much of an IndyCar facility. The doubleheader at Indianapolis Motor Speedway later in the year with Brickyard 400 and the second Indianapolis GP circuit race in IndyCar will be happening, even though that's not a street circuit. That will also be happening, so that will be a doubleheader with IndyCar as well. Also, from Todoroki, will there be more dirt tracks? I feel like dirt tracks is a celebration of NASCAR's roots, so they need to be more included in the schedule. Dirt tracks such as Eldora and Knoxville. I 100% agree. Coming from Southeast Ohio, dirt tracks is part of my blood anyway. We used to have St. Clairsville Speedway up here. Unfortunately, that track was closed a whole long time ago. We also used to have Cannonball Speedway. That track's been closed for about 9 years. But dirt track racing's part of me, and it's also a part of stock car racing's history. Back in 1949, every single race on the schedule was a dirt track. But either way, the first ever asphalt race in NASCAR was in 1950, the second season. By the way, the eventual champion of that year was Bill Rexford, who does deserve to be on the list of the 50 greatest drivers of NASCAR just because he's a champion. Doesn't matter that he only has one lead lap finish in his career that came at Canfield, Ohio, which was also his only win, but he's a champion. You can't deny that. Sure, Lee Petty competed in that USAC race, which got him disqualified for half the season's points, and then I believe it was Fireball Roberts blew an engine in one of the last races of the year that took him out of contention, but I don't really care. Bill Rexford won the championship by points. He was the champion. Doesn't matter how you do it. It's just like if you win a race through gas mileage. If you win the race through gas mileage, guess what? You got there quicker than anybody else. But anyway, back on topic. Dirt races such as Eldora, Knoxville, Volusia County, Springfield, DuQuoin, even Tulsa Expo Center, they need to be with a greater presence in stock car racing. I really believe so, because we need a dirt track that's a real dirt track. I love the Bristol dirt idea, really do like it, but we need a true built for dirt racing dirt track on the schedule. I want the Bristol dirt track to stay. I certainly want it to stay, but I also want a traditional purpose-built dirt track on the schedule. And to truly answer the question, there will be more dirt tracks. In my opinion, I think there should be at least 3 a year on the Cup schedule, just to really prove the versatility of a Cup Series driver, what they have to be the best of an American race car driver. However, I would be satisfied with 2 if it's just the Bristol dirt track and, let's say, Knoxville. But I'd like for it to be Bristol dirt track, Knoxville, and Eldora, is my opinion. But we'll see how that progresses. But dirt racing has a 100% future in stock car racing in NASCAR from here on out. From the Alex Mill, with Johnny Sauter not having a great start this season and a poor year last year, is it safe to say that ThorSport could potentially be looking for other options for 2022? I would say it's possible for ThorSport to look to a different, driver. But right now, I feel like they're committed with Johnny Sauter just because of how much he helped them build that team along with Matt Crafton. But I still feel like, even knowing they're going through a lot of hardship right now, probably the most hardship Johnny's had in about 10 seasons, counting his entire NASCAR career, not just the Truck Series. But I feel like they will at least stick with Johnny for another year to 3 years. That's my opinion. But I think that Johnny Sauter still has a fairly safe ride in the 13 truck. And now, to follow up this from NASCAR UT fan, would retirement be on the list of possibilities for Sauter? If I know Johnny Sauter, he is not going to retire anytime soon. Even if he isn't racing in NASCAR, he will be up in Wisconsin, running late model races, probably winning Slinger Nationals, stuff like that. He will certainly have a presence in racing, regardless of whether or not he's in NASCAR. But even if he does get released by ThorSport, he would probably just put together a team to try and run in the Camping World Truck Series, if I know anything about Johnny. Him and Joe Shear Jr. could probably put together a half-decent operation fairly quickly. People give Johnny a lot of flack because of what he says on the radio. They don't really like how he says it or what he says. But I will say this. He has passion. Even if you don't like what he says, he at least cares about where he's running. And that passion is what normally leads to him either winning or getting in trouble, which both are kind of good for ratings. There's no real such thing as bad publicity. Not all the time, but for the most part. And Johnny Sauter, I feel, will have a pretty long career still. Probably a good 8 to 10 years we'll be watching him in the Truck Series. Maybe not the whole time for ThorSport, but I could certainly see him trying to put together an operation either by himself with him and Joe, or potentially with another team. We saw Timothy Peters come back with Nemco this year. Depending on how certain teams go, Johnny Sauter I still feel like is going to have a ride regardless of ThorSport, really just because of the name that Johnny Sauter is, being an ASA champion, being a Camping World Truck Series champion. He's a driver that people want. It's just he's not having a very good year, not actually having a good year and a half in the 13 truck. They're going to have to figure out a way to get that ship righted, but I don't think Johnny is out anytime soon. From Colin McCoy, any new part-time teams looking to make a start or debut in the Cup Series? Right now, there's not that much talk about too many new teams, mainly because the market's kind of flooded already with how many cars. I mean, we had 64 cars show up for Daytona for the 500. That's a lot of entries. I'm just saying. That's the most we had since 2007, when we had 67 at Daytona, and that was the final year of the car yesterday, as we call it now, the Gen 4, as teams were trying to sell off their stockpiles of cars before they got into the COT. However, like I said, I think it was the last part, Sam Hunt has been looking at putting together a Cup car. I could see maybe them trying to run a race late in the playoffs, as they could possibly buy a couple cars off of the bigger Cup teams. And since they're a Toyota team, maybe buy 1 or 2 cars off of Joe Gibbs. Maybe get a car ready for, Talladega or something later in the year, something like that. They could even buy some of the reserve cars off of, say, Gaunt Brothers with Cal Wells. They could get something off of the 96 and 69 teams, maybe put something together, maybe run in a partnership with that team to see if they can get something going. But not too many rumored part-time teams to make a starter debut. Ryan Sieg is still looking at trying to run something, though. I will say that. Because they ran the full Cup season last year with mostly 2 cars for the full season, with minimal success, but they won the Southern 500 with Myatt Snyder. However, that was an RCR-built race car. And after the whole partnership with GM fell apart, they went back to the Xfinity Series with Ford Performance. But I will say this, they probably could make a couple Cup starts with a 39 car or something like it, with a Ford deal, to try and put either Ryan Sieg himself or another Ford driver into a Cup race or 2. So I would say Sam Hunt and Ryan Sieg are the 2 teams to look out for right now. Not too many truck teams beyond, actually, Nice Motorsports looking at trying to build a Cup car as well. As, cars are being sold off to lower teams as we prepare for the next gen car. We're kind of getting a huge influx of teams showing up late in the era of Gen 6 racing. From our reporter, Order of Tier, which Cup Series driver do you think has been the most consistent? To be completely honest with you, probably Austin Dillon. Even though he didn't make the Daytona 500, he has been putting up top 10 numbers, more or less, throughout the entire year. It's been really impressive what he's been able to do in the number 3 car with, I don't want to exactly say limited funding, but lesser equipment, I think is the right phrase, because they haven't really been able to put together Joe Gibbs level cars at RCR since probably 2010, when Kevin Harvick almost won the championship battling with Denny Hamlin and Jimmy Johnson. So this year has really been a big-time uptick for RCR when it comes to their drivers' performance. Their equipment really hasn't gotten any better, but Austin Dillon's just been driving the wheels off the thing, which is why Stewart Haas, as an organization, is so interested in him driving the 14 car next season. So I would say overall he's been the most consistent, and at least the one that I have my eyes on when it comes to his consistency, because he's performing better than the car will let him. And I think that you really need to watch out for the driver of the 3 car. From Claustrosphere, is Brennan Gaughan looking at any other drivers besides Gragson to drive the newly acquired Beard Motorsports? I would say yeah. Right now, they're kind of looking at just fielding the 62 car for Noah in those 6 races to maximize his experience, but I've heard even rumors about this team partnering with Bill McAnally. And I'm sure you know the relationship Brennan Gaughan has with Bill. They won Winston West Championship, now an Arca Menards West Series title together many, many years ago. You might recall the Napa number 16, and now they have Derek Kraus, Gracie Trotter in the Camping World Truck Series. They're expanding their program. This would actually mean that the team would move to Toyota, which might mean that Noah Gragson might not follow with them. Like I've said before, this is just teams getting the most that they can out of the Gen 6 car before we switch over to the next gen car. In particular, Brennan Gaughan is just using the leftover cars from Beard Motorsports, trying to put together a full-on operation, full-time operation for 2022, which is why the manufacturer is not confirmed either. So I would keep my eyes on that team, actually, because the driver isn't a constant. It's just a this-year deal. I really don't 100% expect Gragson to show up at this team next year. He'll probably get some kind of other opportunity. There's all the rumors about Stenhouse leaving JTG, whether or not they'll go with Gragson or Balicki to drive the number 47. They'd probably actually move Eric Jones to the 47, and then Balicki or Gragson would get the 37. But I would say, honestly, that Gregson running for this team in 2022 is kind of unlikely. This just seems like a 6-race deal, just getting this team started and trying to get it headed in the right direction for when they really get to competing next year. From Order of Tier, has NASCAR provided any notes about the safety of the next-gen cars following Kaz Grala's wreck? So that was actually one of the wrecks that they've taken into account for the next-gen car. There's been 3 major wrecks over the last couple seasons that they've really been putting together the data to try and prevent them. Alex Bowman's wreck in the 2020 Daytona 500, which he suffered some broken bones in that wreck and a concussion. He managed to come back the next week at Las Vegas, and I believe he finished runner-up to Daniel Suarez, which was remarkable. And Matt Kenseth's career-ending crash at Pocono, and finally Kaz Grala's wreck at Dover. Grala's was the least significant when it comes to injuries related to the driver, because he was simply sore the day after, which is much better than having a concussion or any kind of broken bones or anything like that. Matt Kenseth had a very significant concussion, kind of like what Dale Earnhardt Jr. had at Fontana in 2002. And given the fact that, no offense to Kenseth, fantastic race car driver, 2003 champion, 2-time Daytona 500 winner, but he was kind of in the twilight of his career at the top level at that time, and so he just decided to call it quits after that. He didn't need to, have to survive racing at his age. But all that data is going into the development of the next-gen car. I've been hearing stuff about them wanting to move the driver in just a little bit. Obviously, the B-post reinforcement that happened after Kenseth's crash in particular will stay on the next-gen car. And they're more or less just trying to slow down the sudden jerk of a stop that, Kaz Grala's wreck was, because Grala's wreck was a sudden stop forward from the driver's seat, so it was suddenly forward. Kenseth's wreck was a force coming in like this, and Bowman's crash was a force coming in near the legs. So it's all been different types of crashes, but very significant ones. And, you never want to have wrecks, but if you're going to have them, use them for the purpose of data. And NASCAR's doing a good job at that so far. I would expect the next-gen car to actually probably be the safest we've had since the COT. Going off of what I've heard, all the efforts are going into this to make it the safest car that we have, moving the driver in probably an extra couple inches. Also, reinforcement down by the legs, which is what happened to Bowman. He got hit by Ryan Sieg in the Daytona 500 right at the leg area, and that ended up giving him a left leg injury because of where he was hit. They're going to reinforce that area as well. The car might be a little heavy on the left side, but this is a primarily oval racing series. It's kind of what you want. And mainly, what they're trying to work on with this car is performance and safety in a balance. They're trying to kind of remedy the issues that happened with the COT, where they kind of put safety above performance, which was good for the time. It was important. I'm not downplaying the COT's importance whatsoever, but they're trying to bring the balance back, because the Gen 4 car raced amazing, but it was dangerous. COT didn't race that good, but it was safe. Bring those two categories up and reach a middle line, just like what I talked about earlier with the aero package. You don't want two extremes. You want the middle. You want something that is consistent, and you want something that is good to bring the best and safest racing product possible to the racetrack week in and week out. And your final question from Todoroki: will teams be expanding, such as 2311 and Penske? Yeah, so far, Penske is looking at running that O2 car in more races after Scott McLaughlin's fantastic debut at Circuit of the Americas and third-place finish. He was enthralled with the way the car is handled and the experience of it. It was a different challenge from what he's getting driving an Indy car. It was, driving a Cup car, like I even said in the pre-race at Circuit of the Americas, driving a Cup car on a road course is trying to make a square fit a circular hole. You're racing a car that isn't designed, really, for road course racing on a road course. So he liked the challenge of getting a big 3,600-pound stock car to lumber around the corners and fighting the thing to get the power down and not having wheel spin. As well, another driver rumored for the O2 car is Joseph Newgarden, only if he can win the Indianapolis 500. The deal, from what I've heard, is if he can win the Indy 500, Penske will give him a race in the fall playoff Bristol race. If Newgarden manages to qualify for the race on time, which, as we know, everyone has to make it in on their time in qualifying. Newgarden would not get any special treatment. He would still have to make it in on time, just like all the other drivers. The Cup Series champion could just show up and fail to make it. But if he could win the Indianapolis 500, he will be getting an attempt at Bristol in the 02 car. 2311, like I mentioned in the last episode of Post Tech, we'll be trying to open up a second car for R&D purposes, trying to put all that effort into the 23 car. They would likely run the 45. The two drivers rumored for it, Daniel Hemrick, who has some Cup experience with RCR, and John Hunter Nemechek, who has some Cup experience with Front Row Motorsports. So those are the two drivers that they're looking to put in to the number 45 car. Also, Stuart Friesen, believe it or not, is being rumored to run that car at the Bristol Dirt Track this year, coming after the Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte. And so, folks, that does it for episode number 3 of Post Tech. We will be seeing you at Talladega Superspeedway for the Geico 250 NASCAR Camping World Truck Series race. We'll be covering both the truck race and the Cup race in full at Talladega Superspeedway, giving you the Geico 250, and then just a couple days later, the Geico 500, one of the 5 Drive for 5 races. If you win 3 out of those 5, you get a $1 million bonus at the end of the contest at the Southern 500. The only driver who is locked into the contest with his Daytona 500 win, Josh Bilicki. So maybe he could pull off another upset win at Talladega, as he will be getting some more Hendrick equipment to run that race, as well as running the filter time colors once again. And so from all of us here at the Speed Station, we'll be seeing you at Talladega Superspeedway next week. And don't forget, Post Tech coming next week as well, always Wednesdays at 6 p.m. We'll see you next time.